Allow me to start this video off with the following statement. I absolutely hate election years in the United States of America. I was never really that big of a fan of them even before I started to vote, but especially this year with the craziness that 2020 has been offering us, the whole general election in the United States hasn't really made things that much easier, at least in my opinion. If anything, it's only proven that people are far more insufferable regardless of their political affiliation, because, newsflash, ladies and gentlemen, there are plenty of insufferable people on both sides of the political fence. So, as the election became closer and closer as the weeks passed by, I thought to myself, let's make kind of a satirical-esque video of a guide to surviving Election Day in 2020. And what happened is that this video came to be. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to bring to you the Alpha Male Guide to Surviving Election Day in 2020. And what does that exactly mean when I use the term alpha male? Well, here's the deal. The way I think is not how a lot of people think. A lot of people I consider to be sheep. They don't think for themselves. They allow their friends or celebrities to influence, or the news to influence all their opinions, when really they should just be thinking for themselves and doing their own research on things. So the alpha male guy is essentially the way I think of an alpha male is someone that carries themselves a certain way. Like they don't have a weak, they're not really weak, if that makes sense. They don't have a weak tendency. I think that's why the term beta male or beta gets thrown around a lot, because a lot of these people I see on social media, again, on both sides of the fence, have a lot of weak personalities and a lot of weak mindsets. You know, they think that for some reason some guy they think some guy in the White House with a toupee and a really bad tan, if I am being honest, regardless of whether I feel whether I voted for him or not, or I didn't vote for him. You know, they think that this guy is the issue of all of their problems, when in reality there's a lot more problems that actually do not include our President of the United States of America. Now, let it be clear to you all that I actually had to vote via the mail because, well, essentially the state of New Jersey is run by an absolute fucking asshole. And that's as much as I'll say on that. And that's not even including any, political party agenda or anything. I have no affiliation to any political party as far as I'm concerned. The only loyalty I have is to myself. But I know for a fact our governor of New Jersey is an absolute inbred of a human being. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me start the Alpha Male Guide. Rule number 1. Stay the fuck off social media. And I realized this a little bit too late. Well, not too late now, but back in 2016 when Trump initially got elected, you had your people celebrating on social media, but then a lot of negativity. You start to see a lot of negativity, because a lot of people were like, oh, I hate Trump, and I hate Trump, and I start reading this stuff, and I start seeing people crying, like videos that they posted of themselves on social media, crying that someone they didn't want to get elected got elected. Who in the fuck cries over something like that? I've cried at plenty of things. I've cried at, the endings of movies. I've cried at seeing babies. I've cried at seeing adorable puppies. I cried at the end of Carlito's Way when Carlito died. Spoiler alert. And that really still I really haven't gotten over that. I cried at a lot of things. I've cried at family members passing away, but I've never once in my life cried over an election that more or less doesn't actually affect me too much, because that's a federal thing and not so much a state or local government thing. So once I started seeing all this, I was like, alright, time to get the fuck off this shit, because I was like, alright, everyone's essentially gone full retard. I'm not dealing with this. So essentially what I plan to do is, what you should plan to do is, regardless of whatever types of media you use, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, all that jazz, even other media such as news or anything, stay the fuck off of it. You make your day will probably go by a lot smoother, and in the end you probably will end up being a lot happier too, at least in my honest opinion and my own experience, because once I got off all that shit, when I was waiting for class to start the morning after the 2016 election, I was like, whew, I feel so much better now. I went to go listen to some music because Alter Bridge had just released, what was it? Alter Bridge had released the Last Hero CD a couple weeks ago, so a couple weeks prior to that, so I was listening to that again because it was awesome. So I was just hanging out, and everyone's all coming in this class, all bummed out and shit. I'm like, it's like I'm sitting here happy as can be, not even because of any election, just because I'm just listening to music, hanging out, and chilling, and not really worrying about something that doesn't affect me too much. Now, the following points I'm going to make throughout the course of this video are whether or not you actually still continue to use social media throughout the course of the day, or you just have general interactions in public with human beings. So, again, take a listen to this, and this is really disregarding if you don't follow step 1. Don't listen to what celebrities or the news tell you about voting. There's a lot of celebrities, regardless of their political agendas, that are just inbreds when it comes to what actually entails with politics. They think they know everything, yet for the most part they don't actually know anything at the same time. They come off as just angry and bitter and whatever, you know, regardless of political affiliation. This goes for both sides. They just come off as just absolute idiots to listen to and read, and I think a lot of people give these guys far, far too much credit when it comes to anything political affiliated. It's just so mind-boggling how, you know, someone that was in a movie 20 years ago all of a sudden is an expert on what political stances are and such like that. I mean, I'm not saying you can't have an opinion. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one. But there are some people, especially celebrities, and the people that follow these celebrities, they are just wow. I just can't. I can't actually like fathom like trusting a celebrity's political opinion on really anything. I don't. There are very few people I even listen to in regards to that, and even then, I kind of just shake my head and be like, God, you guys are so brainwashed. It's not even funny. Like, honestly, they all just seem incredibly brainwashed, in my opinion. Regardless of whatever side of the fence they're on. The news, same thing. I don't watch the news. I don't care to watch the news. My family always like, oh, you should pay attention. You should watch the news. You shouldn't read social media for all this shit. And I really don't do it. I really don't do it anyway. But it's still just, ugh, I don't even know. I just don't. I find that I can form my opinions on my own, and with my own beliefs and my own morals and such. So, next rule of the Alpha Male Guide, and this one definitely, you are definitely not an alpha in any way, shape, or form if you do shit like this. And I'll tell you a story about that as this goes on. Do not post a photo that you are in the process of voting or that you have voted. Because in my opinion, you look like a giant tool seeking attention. Now, this story is derived from the mid-season elections, or whatever the hell the term is, the mid-elections where the governors start getting elected and such. And I saw some dude, like some middle-aged looking dude, whose hair looked like he came straight out of like the 80s. He was with his wife, who looked like an absolute bimbo, at the polls in my town. And all of a sudden, as I finished my voting, I walk out of the polls, and I'm, you know, minding my business, like, all right, I just voted, time to go on about my day. All of a sudden, I see the most infuriating thing I think I've ever seen in my life. I see this guy his wife is taking a photo of him with he's like smiling with his mouth open or whatever, like one of those happy mouth open smiles, that he's about to go vote. And his wife is taking a photo of it, probably for their Facebook page or some bullshit. And I'm looking at this guy, and I'm not sure if he sees me or not, but I'm looking at him as if, like, and I literally out loud said, "You look like a fucking cuck, dude." And I bet he is a cuck. He probably takes it up the ass from his wife in the evening. That's probably all I'm going to say about that. But literally, like, if you literally have to announce that you voted, in my opinion, you are just an absolute loser. I mean, who gives a shit that you voted? You did your civic duty. Do your civic duty that is within your rights to do it, and move the fuck on with your day. It's not that difficult. It's really not that difficult just to not fucking say anything about it. Like, why does this culture in the United States and in the world feel like every time they do something that isn't like, or that like, they need to post it on social media a lot of the time? I mean, I've been guilty of this myself, I'm not gonna lie, so I can't really complain too much, but like, but with voting, like, because it's like so socially acceptable to vote. Like, even now I'm seeing people all over the fucking social media say, "Oh, go vote, go vote, go vote," or "I voted, I'm voting." Like, what do you fucking care that what I'm doing, or what do I have to care what you're doing? Just fucking do it and shut the fuck up. It's not that difficult. It's really not that difficult. I don't understand why this is so hard for people to understand. And even as ridiculous as this sounds, all the stuff I've mentioned so far is what prevents me from even caring about voting to begin with, and caring about these elections to begin with, because everybody is a fucking inbred. They all just spout bullshit without actually, like, doing anything to back it up, and they all just do all this stuff for attention. And I'm just like, what the fuck? What is wrong with people? Honestly. In regards to that, the next thing I want to say, the next rule of the guide here I've created is do not lecture, chastise, or even comment on someone else's vote. And regardless of who they voted for. Like, if you voted for Trump, don't chastise someone who didn't vote for him, or if you voted for Biden, don't chastise someone that didn't vote for him for whatever reason. Everyone has their own reasons for voting, regardless of whether you disagree or agree with them. I don't really give a shit. In the end, a lot of people I'm friends with don't usually agree with my views, and I'm like, okay, that's cool, that's all right, we're still cool, and we can actually have a civil conversation about it. I'm not sure why people all of a sudden can't have a civil conversation about things like this anymore. It boggles my mind, to be quite honest with you. But what I never do is I never chastise or lecture them about why they're wrong about their vote, because in the end, it's their fucking right to vote. I mean, whether you agree with it or not, that's up to you. I mean, if you're gonna fucking worry so much about disagreeing with someone's vote as opposed to your own vote, to me, you look like a bitter piece of garbage. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. I don't know, is there even a nice way to say it? You just seem incredibly bitter, in my honest opinion. Like, why does someone else's vote matter so much to you? Because you're worried your side's not going to win, or you're worried that, you know, your candidate's not going to win because this person didn't vote for your candidate? That's why I always laugh when I hear speeches just like, oh, and we should all worry about voting in the election. Like, even like I've heard graduation speeches at like my brother's high school graduation this past summer, and these people are all saying like, oh, this is why, with everything going on, this is why it's so important to vote and blah 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 in November and all that such. And I'm sitting here like, well, why don't you fucking just tell me who to vote for? I mean, god damn. I hate when people have to lecture you about this shit, because even, and this is high school kids we're talking about, they're trying to lecture me, someone who has already voted and has already done their own research on various candidates, on how to vote. Like, give me a fucking break. This is how stupid this fucking world is now. Last but not least, and I think this goes without saying, because, I mean, I've had to deal with it for 18 years of my life before I even started voting. I'm 23 now. If your preferred candidate does not win the election, deal with it. It's not that difficult. Whether Trump wins or Biden wins, in the end of the day, I mean, I think there will be some, I don't think there's no denying there will be some ramifications in some way, shape, or form, regardless of what's going on in the world, right in the country right now. But at the end of the day, the other one side's going to win, one side's going to lose. There's really no way to sugarcoat it, ladies and gentlemen. So regardless of how you feel of that vote, I mean, there's going to be a lot of, I think there's going to be any differentiating opinions. There's probably going to be with this last point I'm making, but we just have to deal with it. Unless there's some sort of crazy scandal or some sort of crazy bullshit that the other candidate who won, he gets kicked out of office because he did something wrong or whatever in the process of his tenure voting while the campaigns were going on. We're going to have to end up dealing with it. You know, that's essentially what's going to have to happen. I mean, there's really no easy way or for me to say this. I mean, hell, I dealt with stuff that I didn't, I mean, even outside of politics, I had to deal with shit that was out of my control. I had to deal with things, I had to deal with shit like COVID, and I had to lose my job in March because of COVID. You know, I had to deal with it. I had to adapt in some way, shape, or form. Now, a lot of people's ways of adapting to what they probably, to a possible, their candidate not winning is probably going to end up being some sort of civil war or some shit, so I'm not looking forward to that, I can tell you that much, but that's all I'm going to say about that. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is the Alpha Male Guide to Surviving Election Day 2020. I want to make this actually entirely clear. before, because I know YouTube's really sensitive about shit like this, because I made a video a while back about, and they took it down. This is really all more or less in some way, shape, or form satirical, and no one's actually, I'm not actually targeting anybody when I'm talking about this. Yeah, I did tell some stories about some jerk-off in a poll one day, but I didn't know who the fucking guy was, and he doesn't even know who I was, but all I know is I fucking made fun of him, and hopefully he heard me, because he did look like an absolute jackass, but that's besides the point. But more or less, this is all just in good fun. That's the whole point of the video. I mean, I'm just trying to bring some light, even because, and for a lot of people, including myself, this is going to be a really hard week. It's going to be a very hard week to deal with, because I just don't tolerate shit like this. Some people say, oh, you should care more, you should care more. I really don't. I'll do my civic duty, and I'll shut the fuck up about it, and I'll just deal with the consequences of what happens. But the people that are so into it that it's just, they just become insufferable. They just become really insufferable, and that's what I leave you guys with. So, regardless of who wins, I hope you all stay safe, take care of yourselves, and most importantly, take care of each other. Have an awesome day, and peace out.